You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
Unnerved ex-officials uncork stock analysis as Trump spy chief cleans house on deep state based on an article by Daniel Hampton. The Purge is the point, not the cover story. Trump's hand holds X. The important fact in this story is not that Bill Pulte is clearing house. It is that Donald Trump put him there to do it. Trump installed a housing official with no intelligence background, no prior clearance, and now an acting post that can stretch past the midterms, then use him to begin firing dozens of intelligence workers. That is not administrative housekeeping, it is political control. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence does not generate its own intelligence. It sits atop the system and receives information from the CIA, the NSA, and a web of other agencies. That makes the Purge especially revealing. Trump is not just replacing one manager. He is trying to shape the filter through which the government's intelligence reaches him. Deep state as a cleanup language. The stated rationale is the usual authoritarian sludge. The targets are allegedly deep state holdouts who failed to give leadership a complete picture. But the source itself undercuts that claim. Former officials say they have never heard of intelligence officers withholding information from superiors, and one calls the premise absurd. That is the right reaction. It is not a description of non-dysfunction, it is a pretext. This is how power lauders itself. First it invents a hidden enemy, then it uses that enemy to justify personal destruction. The word efficiency comes along afterward to make the Purge sound managerial instead of political. What the appointee can see and what he cannot. Pulte's lack of intelligence experience is not a side note. It is a mechanism. A man who ran the federal housing agencies is now making sweeping judgments inside the intelligence apparatus within days of arrival. A former official's hospital analogy lands because it exposes the absurdities. Someone who does not know the field is still empowered to cut through it. That is not a staffing issue. It is a loyalty test disguised as a reform. When power puts an outsider in charge of expert institutions and then demands quick firings, it is usually not looking for better information. It is looking for obedience. The real target resistance to Trump's claim. The most serious line in the source is also the most telling. Democrats and some Republicans fear the Purge is aimed at analysts who might resist Trump's election claims. That is the political core to the story. The issue is not simply who gets laid off. It is whether intelligence professionals who know how the institutions work will remain in place long enough to contradict the next round of manufactured reality. That is why the Purge matters beyond Albany. If the administration can clear out people capable of saying no, then the intelligence system stops being an evidentiary constraint and becomes a capital prop. The point is not better intelligence. The point is a more confined state. Institutional code is visible in real time. The source says Pulte had not even held a security clearance before this role. That detail should not be treated as a procedural curiosity. It is evidence of how far the administration is willing to treat national intelligence as an instrument of faction. Federal vacancy rules make the acting arrangement durable enough to survive the calendar. That means the damage is not accidental or temporary. It has structure. The Albany statement about elite apolitical intelligence reads like an institution trying to speak itself back into legitimacy while power strips it down from the inside. That is a familiar problem. Institutions announce neutrality while their leadership is being used for partisan enforcement. The language of apoliticism becomes a show for political sabotage. The pattern is familiar. This is what authoritarian politics looks like when it is still polite enough to wear a bureaucratic badge. A loyalist is installed. Expertise is declared suspect. Purges are framed as cleanup. And the real objective is to make institutions less able to tell the truth when the truth is inconvenient to Trump. The broader lesson is not that one bad actor has gone too far. It is that the apparatus is being bent toward a simpler principle. Government exists to protect the leader's story, not to challenge it. When intelligence is made subordinate to logic, the Republic does not just lose information, it loses the capacity to distinguish fact from command. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to Raw Story for today's article. With the automated voice of Diana, thanks for listening.